My name is Joe Bressler. I'm a filmmaker based in Brooklyn, New York, and today I want to talk about some BTS of a short experimental fashion film I shot last week. The film was called Seek Your Truth, and it was sort of a way to experiment with shooting through water in a variety of different ways. Some like actually shooting the shot through water, and then in other shots I wanted to light through water. So I decided to collaborate with a frequent creative partner of mine, Alanka Verhoeven, and we came up with a narrative structure for the film that involved a model kind of sitting at a table behind a variety of different vases and glasses and kind of looking through them, and her environment changing until she kind of dunks her head underwater and finds herself in a completely different place. I want to give a shout out to Prospect Studios, who was our host for the shoot. They let us use their space for free, which was super amazing. I'm going to give them a link down in the description, but they've always been super welcoming. And our DP for the shoot was Miles Kaba. Miles is somebody that I had not worked with before. I had met a couple of times and had coffee with, and overall I really loved their energy, and the images we made really matched exactly what I had in my head. Loading in on the day was super interesting. There was a construction site happening basically directly in front of the studio, and when we landed at the studio for our shoot that was about water, there was not water at the studio. Not the studio's fault, just a crazy coincidence. I'm assuming that the workers probably thought that due to the 4th of July weekend that we shot over, nobody would be at the studio, but they were wrong, we were there. Eventually, we contacted the studio and they had the water turned back on, but it was an interesting little struggle there for a minute. I'd say one of the biggest challenges that we faced when shooting this project was just keeping reflections and glare off the vases. I think by the time we were done shooting, we had, walls of flags and scrims and just crazy stuff going on. And it also took a lot of time just to get the effect that we wanted with the water and the distortions and the reflections and stuff that we wanted to see. The first shot is of our talent Mavaro sitting in front of an array of different vases and glasses, and water is pouring in from the top screen. And when she sees the water, she looks inside of the vase and she's just curious about the vessel in the water. That shot was the first shot that we set up, and it was really awesome to have an opportunity to spend that much time on a shot and setting up the production design, because a lot of times when you're on somebody else's clock, you're kind of not rushing, but there's a lot of pressure to get a shot set up quickly, and this time we kind of got to play, and that's why we do these passion projects. So the second shot, this was actually the second and the fourth shot in the films, more or less. So basically we had Mavaro look through another tube of water. That's our motivation to cut into another scene, which I'll describe later. This shot is probably the most interesting shot in the film and the one I'm the most proud of. This is basically it's kind of a triptych that we are comping together in post so that we can see 3 different takes in one shot. So we're kind of showing her pacing back and forth in one shot. We're showing her sitting in between these different groups of glasses in another shot, and then we're showing her face distorted on the far right-hand side of frame. This next shot is definitely one of the shots that I was most excited to do, and this is a moment in the narrative that we have where she's kind of refreshing, and this is kind of I guess a little bit of a beauty moment too. This could be maybe something you would see in a beauty commercial. And yeah, she's just dunking her face in and then pulling her face back out. And then this last shot here is the one that kind of was the impetus for the idea of making this, which was to experiment with making caustic water patterns with a acrylic serving tray and water. But I really wanted to try to do it with water, actually, because that's how Deakins did it in Blade Runner, and I just wanted to see if I could get some sort of similar look. What we did is we mounted the acrylic serving tray on a balcony. In the studio, there's kind of a balcony that overlooks the studio space, and that's where the office is. So we rigged it to the handrail. I feel the shoot came out kind of exactly the way I had it in my head, honestly. We kind of went in with a loose idea of trying to show this sort of transformation from being impatient curious about what else there is sort of in life, I guess you could say, and then kind of having this refresh moment. But really, we just wanted to make something that looked cool and try some new techniques out. So that's kind of why I always do these spec fashion films, because like there's just a lot of, you know, looks that I want to experiment with, and I thought that the team that we got together worked perfectly, that the energy was great, and we were able to make some really beautiful shots. So we'll be putting it up next week, and then following that we're going to do a more in-depth production breakdown. So definitely stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.